The brand new ICE 3 Neo train replaces the old troubled ICE 3M trains on the ICE routes between Germany and the Netherlands and also Germany and Belgium. What it's like to travel on board of these new ICE trains and how are they different compared to their predecessors. We're all about to find out in this video as we take this ICE 3 Neo train from Frankfurt in Germany to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Join me on board of this brand new ICE Neo from Frankfurt in Germany to Amsterdam in the Netherlands via Cologne and Utrecht. Some more towns along the way. For now, let's get this video on the track and let's roll the intro. And just like any trip report, I'll start off by showing you the railway station where this journey starts. If you want to see the train straight away, you can skip to the point that will pop up right now on the screen. Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof is the main railway station in the German city of Frankfurt am Main. There are two Frankfurts in Germany, this can be a little bit confusing. This is one of the biggest and busiest German railway stations, and there were some construction works going on when I was here. It was mainly for the underground section, as I just showed you. Right at the front of the railway station there are quite some tram and bus stops, but you also find them at the sides. Apart from that, obviously, you also find taxi stands over here, and some spots where you can just pick up and drop off railway passengers by car. If you want to go here by car, there's not a lot of space to park over here. Originally opened in 1888, Frankfurt am Main Hauptbahnhof still functions like one of the most important railway stations in Germany. From here on you find trains to all over Germany, mainly long distance trains and obviously plenty of regional trains. This is located in quite an urban area, so there are quite some bigger cities around here. But obviously, the number of long distance trains to all over Germany is also pretty high from and to here. Apart from that, there are many international trains as well, with very regular connections to the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Switzerland and Austria, and there are some connections to the Czech Republic and Hungary as well. Long story short, this is an important railway station, not only for the region and Germany, but also from a European perspective. At the moment you enter the railway station at the front, you get out at this area over here, where you find direct access to the underground section of the railway station, and most railway related services and passenger related services can be found here. Like for example some car rental companies and access to the ticket counters and also the lounge. There are also lots of vending machines for train tickets, and the infrastructure to buy your train tickets online is pretty good as well in Germany. Although, because there are so many regional tickets, this might be a little bit confusing every now and then. For the ticket counters you have to withdraw a number and then you have to wait in line. And this here is the access to the lounge. Not all first class tickets gain access to the lounge, so please check the conditions when it comes to this. The lounge is located right above the ticket counter area. It's partially called DB Premium. I don't know if this is another kind of lounge or not. If you know this, let me know in the comments. Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof is a terminal railway station, at least for the most part. You basically find the tracks, and right opposite from the tracks you find shops and some railway related services. Over here there are also some information points for the trains obviously, and obviously lots of shops. I think the layout speaks in that sense quite for itself. Even though there are some construction works going on at this railway station, that's mainly at the underground section, so as a long distance railway passenger you probably won't notice anything of this. At the side of the railway station there are quite some left luggage lockers and also some parcel delivery lockers for a bigger German parcel company. From the side you also have a nice view at the railroad tracks, as you can see over here. This station is rather big, and obviously also from the sides of the railway station you find access to the railroad station. And here we are. Obviously there are plenty of screens with information about departing trains, and this here is the area right at the front of the railroad tracks. There are quite some entrances to the lower section of this railway station as well, where you find the S-Bahn, what is the commuter rail of the Frankfurt region, and the U-Bahn, what is the underground, or the metro. Over here you will find through tracks. So this is definitely not for all trains a terminal railway station. The U-Bahn, or the metro, is mainly serving Frankfurt and some regions around it, but the S-Bahn, these trains do go way deeper into the area around Frankfurt, and also serving quite some bigger towns around Frankfurt. This can all be found at the lower section, and by the way, if you're traveling with the S-Bahn trains and you're traveling with the use of Eurail or Interrail, you can also take these trains. In the future there will be more tracks at the underground section of this railway station, because a new tunnel will be built under the city of Frankfurt, making this a better place for trains where they can just go through, instead of having a terminal railway stations where there might be a lot of congestion because trains need to go through each other's path. And also for the current underground section at this railway station, there will be a lot of improvements on the short term, because the construction works were almost finished as far as I noticed. Well, everything in this railway station is pretty clear because of the layout. It basically speaks for itself. The toilets over here, I only saw stairs going down, so I don't know how accessible they are for if you can't walk the stairs that easily. But I bet there must be a way to find easier accessible toilets. There are some information stands in the main concourse as well at the front of the railway station, but these are not the main ticket counters, but there are quite a lot of them. At the other side of the railway station, there are some more tram stops, bus stops and also taxi stands. And let it be no surprise that in general around this railway station there are lots of hotels. To be honest, this is not my favorite railway station, but it's definitely not a railway station I would consider as unpleasant either. This railway station can be really busy. And just like basically all busy places, if you're here and you're traveling with your luggage, just pay a close eye to your luggage. Would be sad if something bad happens to your luggage, or you obviously. Apart from the many shops, you also find a small miniature railway over here, ideal for railway fans. Well, personally I prefer the real deal, but I know a lot of you people out there love this. At last, some of the places at the main concourse, they are pretty big. For example, you find these food court over here, and there's some more bigger places, like for example restaurants. For now it's just really time to go to the platform. Right at the front of the platforms you'll find an information screen, and this will host the train number, the final destination and some stops along the way. In our situation, our train was being combined with a train part went to Brussels. This part here on the right went to Brussels, while I was traveling at the front part that was going to Amsterdam. In Amsterdam there was also an official press event on the next day, what was a Saturday, and I went there quickly as well. This wasn't that impressive to be honest, basically some talks from officials of Siemens, German railway company DB and the Dutch railway company NS. And fellow train YouTuber who also works as a railway staff, Bart Kromwijk, was also here. But for the rest it was nothing special, because I want to show you what it's like to travel on these trains yourself and not how it is to join a press event. I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. And because these are brand new trains, I really hope this video will still be helpful to you if you watch this after 5 years from now. Or preferably longer. Anyway, this here is the ICE 3 Neo train. And this was the first train that came into Amsterdam for the commercial ride out of the Netherlands to Germany. And I took that train, although the trip report is from Frankfurt to the Netherlands. I hope you like this video so far. If you do so, or if it's a helpful video to you, please give me a thumbs up, I really appreciate that. If you have some questions, feel free to leave a comment. If you just want to say hello, feel free to do so. And if you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is cross-bordering and long-distance traveling. Well, this is definitely both. Then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. For now, let's continue with this video. Before we take a close look at the interior of the train, let's take a close look at the exterior. The numbers 1 and 2 at the outside do mark very clear where you will find the first and the second class on board of these trains. And also at the moment you walk through the train, this has been mentioned crystal clear. Apart from the number 1, this has always been marked with some extra yellow lines as well, as you can see here on the right. Yellow is a kind of the international standards, in Europe at least, to mark the first class sections. Although this is not an official standard. Apart from that, icons do indicate more or less what facilities can be found where, like for example a quiet zone, kids area, etc. This train does have a dining car, but I'll show you that in a bit. This has also been marked crystal clear at the outside. At the entrance doors, you will find screens that will host route information. So basically, the final destination, the train number, stops along the way and the carriage number. For most carriages, you will find 2 entrance doors. Right next to the entrance doors, or right at the entrance doors, you will find what seats can be accessed best if you take those entrance doors. So you don't have to walk all through the train and there will be less congestion within the trains themselves. The train part that I took to Amsterdam was just arriving at the moment I recorded this, so lots of people were walking to the main concourse of this railway station. These trains can be combined, and this was also what happened for our route. Until Cologne, the train to Brussels and to Amsterdam were traveling as one train. From Cologne, the trains splitted and we continued to Amsterdam, and the part to Brussels, well, obviously continued to Brussels. These are also 2 different train numbers, so if you're traveling with these trains and you enter these trains, please mind the train numbers. This here is actually the train we took, and as you can see, they were combined already. And like I mentioned, at the entrance doors you will see what seat numbers can be approached easiest if you take those doors. So there will be less congestion at the train itself. For now, let's take a close look at the interior of these trains. And there's a small but for this, because you will find 2 different types of interiors. The layout is the same though. In total 90 of these trains have been ordered. However, during this process, the interior have been changed. So you will find 16 trains that do have a different kind of interior. The layout is for the rest basically the same though, only the seats are a bit different and there are some smaller details that are slightly different as well. This here is in the trains that do have the newer interior. I sneaked in one of these trains when I saw this standing somewhere along the route. However, especially at the moment these services have just been launched, you most likely will travel with the trains that do have the older interior. If you watch this video after approximately 1 year that it has been launched, this might be the other way around. And unlike their predecessors, that was the ICE 3M, and M stands for multiple power, these trains, at least the ICE 3 Neo, they can all operate in Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany. This was mainly one of the issues we had with the previous trains, because the fleet was relatively small and if there will be some problems on one train, this impacts the entire timetable. With these trains, if there's a problem with one train standing in Frankfurt for example, it's way easier to just take another train of these types, because they can all go into the Netherlands and Belgium. Very similar trains can also be found on the routes to Paris, but they are slightly different. For now, let's really take a closer look at the interior of these ICE 3 Neo trains. And like I already mentioned, this will be one of the older ICE Neo trains. And I can't say that these trains are brand new, because they were actually already running in some routes in Germany on domestic routes. And now you can also find them on the international routes to Belgium and the Netherlands. This here is the first class that comes in a 2x1 configuration, like basically all European trains. The seats are, well, not that much wider, but the distances between the seats is bigger and the aisle is a bit wider. You have more leg room and that's basically it. I mean, first class is a good product on these trains, don't get me wrong, but compared to second class, I think first class is not that much better. However, you have more space, and especially for making trip reports for example, this is way easier because it's a bit easier to move around. You do find mainly airline style seats or seats coming in a long distance bus seat composition. But there are some bay seats, so seats facing each other as well. At the moment you walk through the train, it has been clearly marked where you find the first and the second class. At the sliding doors before the compartments, this has been clearly marked, and for the first class also an extra stripe at the floor indicates that you're entering the first class. You will not only find this within the train if you walk through the train, but also right next to all the entrance doors. And if that isn't enough, at the headrests it has also been clearly marked that this is a first class seat. So it's really hard to miss that this is the first class. These trains with the older interior already were operating in Germany for a while, and actually at the end of last year I traveled with one of these trains as well. And even though I didn't make a trip report back then, I shot some footage of these trains. At the moment the seats do face each other in first class. You find a bigger table and you can fold this out to make it slightly bigger. And there's a tiny litter bin integrated within these tables. But this litter bin is really small. Seat numbers can be found at the side of all seats, and right below the luggage racks there's a digital display that will indicate from where to where a seat has been reserved. Right under that you find adjustable coat hangers. The displays that will host information from where to where a seat has been reserved. Well, this is nothing new, but what is new and absolutely great on board of these trains, there's also an indicator that's red or orange. Red means this seat has been reserved from the current station. Orange means this seat has been reserved from the next station. And even though this is a small adjustment, I think this is an absolutely great improvement. Tickets for these trains do not always come automatically including a seat reservation, especially not for domestic routes in Germany. For international routes, this is depending on the season, and also on what route you will be traveling on. So having these indicators can really make it easier for people who don't have a seat reservation to find a spot and maybe move around a little bit less, because you don't have to go out at the next station to make room for a passenger that will have a reservation from that station on. However, I strongly recommend you to make a reservation for these trains. They can be really busy, and especially if you have a long railway journey, well, this is a lot of comfort for not that much extra. And the rule at this moment for 99% of all trains in and through Germany is you pay for the first train and all the connecting trains that can be reserved, or for free to reserve. So especially if you have a longer journey with several trains, just do this. The capacity for these ICE 3 Neo trains is slightly higher than the capacity in the old trains, what was the ICE 3M. And this can mainly be found back in the first class, where you will find 9 extra seats. In second class there were 6 seats extra, so in total there are 15 seats more. And by having simply a bigger fleet for these trains, it is also easier to add other trains. So basically let 2 train sets run as one train. This way you don't need extra staff, at least not that much extra staff. And you can use the existing capacity or time slots for the railroad tracks, so this is also a little bit less hassle. And for that this might be one of the best improvements for these trains. Obviously these are long distance trains and you find a lot of space for luggage. You have the overhead luggage racks throughout the train and also dedicated luggage zones in the open compartments. Let's do a seat tour, and I was having some issues with the footrest. Oh, if you pull it back too high it doesn't work. Therefore, you need to pull it back a little bit and then it will, well, stay upright. You also find different stands for this, but since I'm quite a tall boy, I don't use this. Right above the footrest there's a magazine rack, and right above that there's a small but quite sturdy fold-out table. Because you have really a generous amount of legroom in first class, the table is a little bit too far away and therefore you can pull this a little bit towards you. All seats in first class do have a personal cup holder, and for the airline style or long distance bus seat composition seats, you find this thing over here. You can place your phone over here or a tablet and play some movies, for example. All windows do have a sunscreen both in first and second class, and obviously a reading light. All seats do have a power socket, and at the moment the seats are right next to each other, there's some extra space between the seats. If you recline these seats, this is the difference between a fully reclined seat and a non-reclined seat. It's not that much different, but even if I fully recline these seats, I do have more than enough leg room. The handle to recline the seats is located right under the seats. What I really like about these seats in the first class is that there will be screens between the seats and they will create some extra privacy, ideal if you work on your laptop for example. Within the first class there's a small quiet zone and then there's a regular zone. For now let's move on to the second class because the most capacity in these trains can be found here. However, before we do so, screens throughout the train, right at the vestibules before you enter the train, but also at the ceiling throughout the train do host route information. This will not only be the next stops, but also line maps, the speeds, etc. The speeds part is most fun if the train goes along the high-speed line with 300 km per hour between Cologne and Frankfurt. A lot of this information is not only in German, but also in English, Dutch and French, depending what way the train is going. Moving out from the first class towards the second class, there's a small section of the second class and this is a dedicated zone for spare seats and seats for passengers that do have a certain amount of points, gold or silver. I don't know exactly how this is working. And right after that, you will find the dining car. If there's something I really like about trains, it's having a dining car. It just makes the whole experience so much better. And the dining cars on German trains are in general pretty nice. There's a small counter where you can pick up orders and this is way smaller compared to the previous trains. On my way to Frankfurt in the morning I had some breakfast over here. And it was gone before I knew it. The menu selection is pretty reasonable, but this might also change per season. If you want to see what's on the menu, including the prices, just pause the video. The dining car is in general there, however in some rare situations, and this is mainly because of staff shortages, the dining car is not opened. Or this is only opened for a small section of the route. Therefore, for example, having some vending machines of these trains wouldn't be a very bad idea, I think. Also, just take into account that if you're traveling with these trains, you have a dining car, but just in case, take something to drink and some food with you. The area where you can stand right next to the pickup zone for the dining car. This is way smaller and in that sense, this is a little downgrade for these trains. What is an absolute upgrade is the facilities for people traveling in a wheelchair. In these new trains, the lifts for wheelchairs are integrated within these trains, so there's no staff needed at the railway stations to lift people in a wheelchair up in a special lift for this. And I think this is absolutely great. I mean, I truly believe that traveling should be easy for everybody, no matter if you are in a wheelchair or not. Let it be no surprise that close to this area you will find the bigger accessible toilet. This toilet is just huge. Apart from the fact that this is an accessible toilet, this toilet can also be used as a diaper changing facility if you're traveling with a little baby. Over here you find the support bars and left from here you find the diaper changing facility. The staff area is located right next to here as well. Well, if there's some need of assistance, the staff can help you for this. And right next to this you find the child area, and this is the only compartment in this train, especially for traveling with little kids. For this, information about reservations can be found at the side of this compartment. Here you find some light switches, that's a bit easier to film, and this here is the special kid area. There's some playboard and also on the table between the seats you can play games. This is the only area in the train where the power sockets do have some protection for kids. Well, it's not very wise to put your fingers in, so this way it's pretty much impossible. This compartment can have up to 5 people, what isn't a lot though. Right next to this you'll find the accessible area within the second class. The height for some of these tables can be adjusted as well, what is ideal for people traveling in a wheelchair. By the way, if you're traveling in a wheelchair, I highly recommend you to make a reservation for these trains. Because, well, if there will be 20 people showing up in a wheelchair, that will be a little bit tight in these trains. At the other part of this carriage, you find the family area. There's some extra space for parking a buggy, and obviously you have a lot of space for luggage as well. The walls are a bit more playful, and let it be no surprise that this is no silent compartment. This has also been marked within the train with icons. And by the way, directions within these trains have been marked crystal clear as well. At the vestibules there are bigger litter bins you can also use to recycle some waste. This way traveling by train is even more sustainable. What is absolutely great about these trains, you can take bikes, and this is new on the ICE trains. Some other newer ICE trains already had this, but on routes between the Netherlands and Germany this is new. There's a total capacity for 8 bikes. If you're traveling with a bike, it's obligated to make a reservation. I'd love to see some folding seats, by the way, opposite from the bike area, just as spare seats. This here is the regular second class. If you're traveling with a bike, this will be at the far end of the train, so the best thing is to travel in second class. For now, let's do a toilet review of the regular toilets, and you'll find plenty of these toilets on board of these trains. These toilets are pretty fine, and the way they designed it with the water bin over here, I think this is actually quite comfortable. Everything is also with motion sensors, so also the soap will be dispensed based on motion. This is way more hygienic. And as you maybe already noticed when I walked through the train, also the doors will open based on motion. This here is the second class. There are some solo seats, but mainly the seats in second class do come in a 2x2 configuration, so 2 seats at both sides of the aisle. This was when the train from Amsterdam just arrived in Frankfurt, and the cleaning crew hasn't been everywhere yet. What you just saw. For luggage, you obviously have some dedicated luggage racks, as you can see over here. But don't forget about the overhead luggage racks you find all over the train. You can store quite a lot of luggage over here as well. I also really like it that some of these luggage racks are within the compartments, so you can keep a closer eye on your luggage. Personally, I always like to keep my luggage within sight, and otherwise as close as possible to me. The rest of the second class compartments are basically the same, however there is some variety in zones. For example, a quiet zone, a non-quiet zone, or you name it. What I really like about these trains compared to the predecessors is that you have way better mobile coverage on board of these trains, simply because there are mobile signal repeaters. For everybody who travels with a train before, you might know that this can be a little bit a challenge, mobile coverage every now and then. But over here it's just way better. The composition for the seats in second class is mainly like you can find in airlines or in long distance buses. But there are some bay seats, so seats facing each other as well, with a table in between and a very small litter bin at the side. Like pretty much anywhere, seat numbers can be found right above the windows, under the luggage racks and at the side of the seats. At the side, this is also in braille, so it's easier for people with a very bad sight. I really like the indicators, I just can't say this enough. I mean the red and the orange light to indicate if a seat has been reserved and or maybe from the next station. Well, you also find a reading light obviously, and basically like everywhere in the train, the windows do have a sunscreen. Most features are basically the same as what I showed you in first class. However, in second class you just have slightly less leg room and it's a little bit less wide. Obviously, over here you also find the mobile phone holders or tablet holders. Ideal to watch a movie, some YouTube, well for example a Trainviking trip reports. Further on there is a sturdy fold-out table, a magazine rack, and there's no footrest in the second class. Seats can be reclined with this handle at the bottom of the seats, and if I fully recline them I still have a reasonable amount of legroom. But I can't say this enough. I'm a very tall guy, so it might look tighter than it really is. A litter bin is located right in the seat in front of you, and this also counts for the first class, by the way. Another great improvement in second class is the amount of power sockets on board of these trains in second class. This used to be 1 per 2 seats, but this is 1 per seat. One thing I really want to mention, and this doesn't only count for these trains but for trains in general. You have these dedicated luggage zones, but also at the moment the backends of the seats are facing each other, you can store luggage over here. At last, free Wi-Fi is available. This is not just an internet connection, but it can also link your mobile device to an onboard entertainment and infotainment system, where you find several magazines, newspapers and also live route information. There's a small section in English as well. Well, I bet I forgot some things, but I think I already told you quite a lot as well. And besides from that, this video is taking way too long already. So for the last bit of the video, I'll just show you some views from the train between Frankfurt and Amsterdam. I'll give some information written on the screen while I show you these views. And I'll get back to you at the very end of the video for some last information. As the train is leaving Utrecht, it's time for my personal final conclusion, and I think that these trains are really a big step forwards. Mainly in terms of reliability, but also the ride comfort is pretty comfortable. They accelerate pretty fast, it feels all very smooth, the seats are pretty good. There's a little more capacity on one single train set, however, because you can combine these train sets easily, there's a potential boom when it comes to the capacity, and this is absolutely great and also needed. Just like in many videos, a quick comparison on the environmental impact if you're traveling on this route by train, car and plane. In travel time, comfort and especially the environmental impact, the train is, at least in my opinion, the absolutely winner. Well, because this video takes way too long, I'm not gonna spend more time on this topic. That's it for this video on the new ICE E3 Neo to the Netherlands. I hope you liked this video or this has been helpful to you. If so, please give me a thumbs up, I really appreciate that. If you have some comments, some questions, let me know in the comment section. And if you like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. Before we really end up this video, one last thing. Thank you for watching. If you are interested in other trip reports, you can find them on this channel. And something else you find in the description of this video on YouTube is a link to a map. And on this map you can find all trip reports as well. Might be useful or if you're looking for a specific video. See you on the next video.